Hey legends, welcome along to Hellmouth Hotline. I'm your host, Rodney Stewart, and we're getting into a little review here on Angel, Season 1, Episode 3, In the Dark. This is titled, and it picks up pretty much directly after the prior episode of the podcast where I reviewed that episode of Buffy where Spike was trying to get his hands in the gem of Amara. Gets his ass handed to him, and at the end of that episode, Buffy was sending the ring off to LA for Angel to have. So, at the beginning of the episode, Spike turns up in LA, hoping once again to get his hands on the gem of Amara. The episode opens up with a young woman she's running down an alley, getting chased by someone, but she's puzzled. She stops, she looks around, there's no one there. And she hides for a bit. When she gets up to head on her way, a man grabs her from behind, starts threatening her, and she slaps her to the ground, telling her he can't take it anymore. This is her boyfriend Lenny, strung out in drugs. Whatever the score is between these two, we don't get to find out much other than he is an abusive boyfriend, and he gets high, takes out his anger and horror, and it comes to a head at the beginning of this episode whenever he pulls a gun. He's going to kill her on the spot, puts it to her head, and he's just about to pull the trigger. Angel pops out of the woodwork and knocks his arm up in the air, sending the shot high. Angel then takes the gun off him and knocks him unconscious with one brutal punch. We cut to the top of a building across the alleyway, and stand on the rooftop as Spike, and he's watching Rachel thank Angel in the alley, and we're seeing it from the perspective of the top of the building, so you can see the two of them talking to each other. Angel, he's arm gestures, and she's moving about and whatnot, hands in the hips and whatnot. Spike, he starts to do his own narration of what the two of them are saying. Oh, thank you, stunning Hulk of a man, or whatever. I'm not even going to go into the details of what Spike comes out with in this, but I laughed my ass off at one of the things that he said, which, as far as today's culture is concerned, there's a word that he drops at the beginning of this episode that would be blanked out on TV these days, and the only reason I say that is because I was watching a show literally a couple of nights ago with my brother. We were sitting having dinner, and he brought up this classic episode from Whatever Happened to the Likely Lads, and there was a word in that episode, which is the same word that was in this Angel episode, that was literally bleeped out by the TV channel. Things are changing so much now that there's some words just can't be used anymore, and one of them happens in this episode. So I'm pretty sure I'll be very curious, just after having watched that old episode of Whatever Happened to the Likely Lads and that word getting blanked out, if this episode was re-aired now, would they do the same? It's really weird for me. Some of the things that they are censoring these days is, when you compare it to other things on TV that aren't censored by today's standards, the stuff that they're censoring from back in the 70s and 80s and whatever is really, there's no comparison. One is stuff that they're not censoring now visually is a lot worse, and verbally some things are a lot worse too, but there's some taboo words can't be said. Again, one's dropped at the beginning of this episode, so it is hilarious in the way that it's done, but you have to be, when you're online like me, creating content, you have to be respectful to the people that don't want to hear that sort of stuff anymore. regardless of how I would feel in the situation. Um, we cut over to, well, we get the intro to the episode then, and I love the intro music to this show. We cut to inside Oz's van. He's listening to an LA rock station, and he turns up at Angel's building. And inside there, Cordelia gleefully prints up an invoice for the case of this woman, Rachel, their first paying customer. And Oz opens the door and walks in. She's thrilled to see her old Sunnydale pal. And after Angel and Oz's, they are, when they meet, Oz, as you know, he's one of these guys, is a man of few words, like one word answers and whatnot. And when him and Angel come face to face, they have a brief conversation back and forth, and it's just a few words on each side. And yeah, it's Doyle. He's like, were they always this chatty? So Oz tells Angel that he's there primarily for a gig, but he has something that he has something that Buffy wanted Angel to have. Angel recognises it straight away as the gem of Amara. Doyle also recognises it and explains that the ring is a priceless talisman which renders the wearer 100% unkillable if he's a vampire. That means, of course, if you listen to the last podcast, it means if Angel could put the ring on and he could, among other things, go out into the daylight, fire, whatever, won't kill him. And Oz tells Angel that Buffy wanted him to have it. And he also says she's doing good just being Buffy. As the others leave to go to the pub, Angel stays behind and he decides to hide the ring under a loose brick in one of the sewer tunnels that he uses to get about during the day. The next morning at the Angel Investigations offices, Rachel phones during Angel's Tai Chi practice to say that Lenny has been released on a technicality, and Angel promises he'll be right over. But before he can get into his car, Spike pops up, ambushes him in the parking garage, and the two of the vampires have a bit of a fist fight in a few words. Angel defeats Spike very, very easily. Cordelia and Doyle rush back to back up their friend. Spike recognises and greets Cordelia, and he's like, "Oh, Cordelia, you look great." But then he threatens Angel one last time before disappearing off. Angel, now worried about his friends, tells Cordelia she must stay with Doyle in case Spike decides to make her a target. She doesn't want to stay at Doyle's house, but Angel, he's like, he knows you, or he wants, he can find you. Go stay with Doyle. Angel meets Rachel at her apartment, and he listens to her story and encourages her to leave Lenny permanently. So it's going to be hard, but it's the best thing to do in the long run. Back at Doyle's apartment, Cordelia, she's giving him a little bit of abuse for the state of his place. How can you live in a disgusting shithole, I guess? And Doyle, he's like, well, I didn't until I seen what you did with your place, and I had to call my decorator straight away. So there's a good back and forth between the two of these characters. On a tip from one of Doyle's contacts, Angel chases and corners Spike and a dead end blocked by a chain link fence. Hands locked behind his head, Spike turns to surrender himself, but suddenly a white shirted figure wearing a long chain over his head appears from around the corner, and Angel finds himself caught up with this chain around his neck and on his back on the ground with completely at the mercy of Spike's smiling henchman. Back at Doyle's apartment, Cordelia and Doyle, they're worried that Angel hasn't checked in. Meanwhile, he's suspended by long chains from the ceiling of a large warehouse, and Spike, he introduces him to as a captor, this vampire called Marcus. He's a master torturer with a dark side. Now, when this series was conceived, the spin-off, the Buffy, what they wanted to do was have a show that could be a little bit darker in places, and they go to a dark place with this character Marcus in this episode. They don't say it by name what he is, but they say that he's got a taste for children. Let's just put it that way. He likes to kill children and other nasty things, is the way Spike puts it. And of course, when Angel hears this, even though he's chained, he tries his hardest to hit Spike. So this guy, Marcus, playing classical music, very reserved. He prepares his instruments while Spike goes over some of the highlights from Marcus's gruesome, whatever he has done up to this point. To begin, Marcus inspects Angel inside and out, and then asks, what does he want? Angel's defiant. Marcus steps over, returns with a red hot poker, which he rams through Angel's abdomen. Time begins to pass by as Marcus works into the rhythm of hurting Angel and different torture techniques. He keeps asking Angel what he wants, and when Angel doesn't tell him, he does something else to hurt him again. Spike, he's getting annoyed and breaking off a stake. Spike threatens to dust Angel. If my old sire doesn't tell me what I want to know, I'll stake him right here and now. And of course, that's not going to help him get the gem of Amara. That's what Marcus points that out. Angel, therefore, also knows that Spike is bluffing, and Spike tosses the stake to the floor. Angel takes advantage of the reprieve to tell Spike that he's an idiot for believing that Marcus, a vampire, has no interest in obtaining the gem of Amara for himself. And Spike answers dismissing, I hired a guy that doesn't care about the interest. The gem of Amara, he's just interested in taking people apart piece by piece. Then the classical music starts again. Spike then taunts Angel of his own obsession with Buffy, recounting what happened on a recent rebound disaster. It's like, I bumped into little Buff. She's doing pretty good, jumping the bones of the first lunkhead that came along, and he used her shamelessly and whatnot. Just to really get under Angel's skin. That's his weak point. Buffy, Spike wants to go at him with something. That's probably going to do it. Marcus begins the classical music again. Spike rolls his eyes. He leaves to get some air. He just wants to get away from the music more than anything else. Marcus plunges another hot poker into Angel. Spike, listening to the screams from Angel, he smiles and says, now that's music. And Marcus then starts to, he's got a handgun, he starts to shoot holes in the ceiling of the warehouse, so that Angel, agonised by any movement, must stretch and hold himself to the limit of his chains to avoid getting burned by sunlight. So he's a nasty piece of work. Spike then, as he's left the building, he decides he's going to head over to Angel's place and see if he can find the gem of Amara. And he's confronted by Cordelia and Doyle, and They're armed, waiting behind the door on him, and Spike tells them that if they want Angel to live, they must find the Ring of Amara for him and turn it over before sundown. So they're caught in a hard place now. Where they go and find this thing at? It's down in one of the sewer, rat-infested sewer tunnels that Angel uses to get about in the daytime. Meanwhile, Angel endures the abrupt removal of two pokers and makes Marcus believe he's about to break, and he lures Marcus closer, whispering that what he wants most is forgiveness. Marcus comes near enough for Angel to make his move, and he has managed to get hold of Spike's discarded stake that Spike was going to use threatened to use to kill Angel earlier on. He has that stuck between, he's holding it between his shoes, and he tries to lunge his feet up in the air towards Marcus to stake him. So Marcus at this point loses all control and starts beating on Angel. Suddenly reappearing, Spike grabs Angel's feet and disarms him from the stake. Sorry, I got that back to front. Yeah, he tries to stake Marcus with the stake between his feet. Spike pops up, stops this from happening. That's when Marcus loses all control and starts punching Angel before Spike moves him out of Angel's reach. And he selects a pair of needle-nose pliers, and he's like, I'll give you a bit of help here. And we cut to like a shot of the outside of the warehouse, and you hear Angel screaming one more time. So they're going to town on him in this episode. Back at the apartment, Angel's apartment, Cordelia Doyle, they're having no luck trying to find this gem of Amara in the apartment. So they head off down into the sewers, and Cordelia, she's dismayed that the twos really have a long search ahead of them with little time. But however, Doyle, he lets Cordelia turn the next bend into the tunnel ahead of them, and he quickly uses his demon senses, and his face changes to like green and all these like spikes all over his face, and he has his demon senses whenever he does that. So he sniffs, then his face changes back to human. Of course, he's half human, half demon, Doyle, if you didn't know. Spoilers. So he quickly works out where the ring's at just by smelling, and grabs it from below the brick, claiming that's just good luck. All they need now is a plan. So before sundown, they meet Spike at the spot where he told them to meet them at. They demand to see Angel before they reveal where they've stashed the ring. Spike reluctantly agrees and takes them to where he and Marcus are holding Angel, now barely conscious. He says he's alive, but in one piece, was never part of the deal. Spike gloatingly admits that he has no intention of going through with the trade. Doyle pulls the ring, the gem of Amara, out of his pocket and throws it across the warehouse floor. And just as Spike goes to reach for it, he's forced to duck and roll when Oz smashes through the warehouse door with his van. And from the driver's window, Oz holds Spike and Marcus at bay with two crossbows until Cordelia and Doyle can get Angel into the back of the van. And once that's done and they're safe, Oz jams in reverse, gets the van out of the warehouse, and they make a run for it. So Spike is then looking for the ring, only to find that it's disappeared, and so has Marcus. And this is Spike finally realises that Angel was indeed right. This is a vampire. The ring's going to make him unstoppable, unkillable. You really think he's just going to be happy with the tormenting? And so that's it for Spike in this episode. He's just like, that's it from now on, like lone wolf, no more partners. Uh, and just at that, he's having this big mad speech to himself about how he doesn't need anybody anymore, and he's going to do this, that, and the other. And then a beam of the sunlight that's coming in through one of the holes that Marcus shot in the roof sets fire to Spike's hair, and he's like, "I hope the two of them kill each other." And that's the last we see of Angel. That's the last we see of Spike in this episode. And we cut to Marcus as he walks out into the street and under direct sunlight without injury. And yeah, so the problem we have now is Angel has been tormented. He's not in good shape. Doyle and Cordelia, they're trying to work on his injuries. However, Angel wants Oz to turn the van around so we can track down Marcus. He realizes what's going to happen. As we said earlier in the episode, this guy has a thing for kids. And it's not, killing them isn't the top of his agenda. Let's just put it that way. It's the middle of the daytime, and everybody's like, what can you do? The sun's up. Unless you're going to change your act to Human Torch, we're going to have to wait till midnight, or wait till sundown. But Angel tells him, look, he's got a thing for kids. We need to go find him. And at that, no more arguments. They turn around and head for... They track him down pretty quick. Marcus, he's making his way along the boardwalk until he spots a group of Cub Scouts and an eventing cart. And he's focused on the children so much so that he doesn't realise to the last second that Oz drives straight down the middle of the boardwalk and using the van's speed and size of it to knock the invincible vampire flying. Cordelia gets out. She takes a shot at him with a crossbow, but of course he's protected by the ring at this point, and he just pulls the arrow, whatever you would call it, out of his chest and throws it away. Doyle then tries beating him back, but he's quickly beat to the side. Back at the van, Oz is at the side door, and he is asking Angel, are you sure you want to do this? And Angel nods his head. He jumps out of the van, runs towards Marcus, bursts into flames. Of course, he's a vampire, not wearing the gem of Amara, so he's susceptible to sunlight. So he catches fire, and just as he does so, he jumps at Marcus and pulls him, throws the two of them off the end of the boardwalk into the water. So this saves Angel from dying at this point. And luckily for him, the last fight between the two of them is underneath the boardwalk, so he's protected by the shadow of the boardwalk. And just to digress slightly a little second, this is the second time we've seen something like this in this episode. And Spike, he was standing between a couple of skyscrapers in LA, broad daylight, but he's in the shadows. I'm kind of thinking to myself, is that enough protection for a vampire from sunlight? Of course, you would think there'd be some sort of heat damage at least, but I digress. It's just one of these things you see it in a show and you think to yourself, I wonder. So that's what I wonder at there. Direct sunlight's going to kill them, but even though we're not in the direct sunlight, they're bound to be getting some sort of bounce from the light. That's one of these things that just runs through my head, and it would drive you slightly insane if you let it. So I try not to. Under the bridge, they're fighting. Marcus, again, protected by the gem of Amara, until Angel... There's one point where Angel throws him through a beam, like a wooden board, and it breaks off into like a huge steak, and he impales Marcus on it, and Marcus just starts laughing at him. This thing's right through his chest, right through his back, through his chest. And Angel simply walks up and says, "You didn't break me, Marcus," and he rips the ring off his finger, and at that, of course, Marcus is just dust. He's dead. Angel slides the ring onto his own hand, steps out into the sunlight, and enjoys a moment on the beach, just taking it in. It's been a couple of 100 years since he was in the sunlight, so it's a real moment for him. That evening, Angel is on top of the building that his office is in, and he's watching the sunset. And to Doyle's dismay, let's just say, Angel's decided not to keep the ring, and Angel tries to explain his feeling that the Gem of Amar only appears to be redemption he's seeking for, that keeping it would somehow make him forget about the many people that are forced to live in the darkness. And if I start walking in the daytime, why forget about the lost faces trapped in the night time? And at that, he takes the, just as the last beams of the sun disappear, he takes the ring off, sets it in the wall in front of him, and he lifts a brick and destroys the Gem of Amara, so no one can have it here. Doyle then remembers that Rachel called to say thanks and that she found a little faith. That is something that Angel said to her earlier in the episode. It's just like, you need to have a little bit of faith in yourself. And so at the end of the episode, we get a close out there where she seems to have found a bit of peace, got rid of the boyfriend in some way, shape, or form. And at that news, Angel smiles and he tells Doyle that he had a pretty good day, except for the bulk of it where he was nearly tortured to death. And together they leave the rooftop and head down the stairs, and that's where the episode closes out. Absolutely brilliant. It was handled, as I say now, there's a few things in there in that episode where at the very beginning I was talking about, there was a word dropped by Spike that I did see literally a couple of days ago, censored out of an old TV show, that back in the day whenever that TV show came out would have been like prime time viewing, family time viewing, it's crazy. But the way they dealt with the need that the character Marcus had, and I don't want to say the word because it's just, I don't want to give it any power, be giving it a name, but the way they dealt with that subject matter in this episode was very tastefully done. And the fact that when all the heroes discovered this and that this vampire needed to be taken out right now, and the fact that, probably at this point in the day, it was only maybe 2 or 3 hours away from sundown, the fact that they turned and headed out in the middle of broad daylight with a susceptible vampire to take this guy out was fantastic. Unreal. Brilliant show. I've got a lot of time for this spin-off. For me, I'm enjoying Buffy the Vampire Slayer, don't get me wrong, but for me, it was never as good as it was in season 2. Now, I may change my perspective on that as we're going through now and watching the episodes for the sake of this podcast. But yes, season 2 for me was the highlight of the entire run. But Angel, all 5 seasons of this show are flipping fantastic. It hits me just right. I love the concept of a hero character that has a darkness to them. I think that's fantastic. The fact that this is a vampire that was cursed to have his human soul returned to him. So it's not just the fact that he's got a darkness to him, it's the fact that he's essentially what a vampire is in this universe is a person gets killed by a vampire. They're made to drink the vampire's blood before they die, and that pretty much ejects the human soul out of the body, and a demon takes up residence within the body, and off it goes with the person's memories and everything in there. So the fact that this character, not just having a darkness, but has his soul returned to his body, so there's actually a constant battle going on within, and you do get to see that explored a little bit in the series as we head on. Fantastic, absolutely brilliant. Love the character of Angel. It's always a highlight to have Spike back on it, and that's something to look forward to in season 5 of Angel, because Spike comes back as a regular cast member for the 5th season. Unreal. Class. Right, I have talked long enough. If I keep going any longer, this podcast is going to be longer than the actual episode of the show that I'm talking about. So at that state, at that rate of going, you're just probably better off watching the episode of Angel and forgetting about the podcast altogether. But if you haven't, and you're still here at this point, you're absolute legends. I love you to pieces, and whatever you're doing, I hope you're doing it safely, and I will talk to you in the next one. This has been a production of Coins Age Media. Thank you so much for listening.